pleased to be joined on this week's show by Rhonda Anderson from Trinitas and the chairperson of the Elizabeth Municipal Alliance. Rhonda, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the Reverend Joseph Adair of the City of Elizabeth, and who has been very active in the DARE program as well. And Reverend Adair, we welcome you to the show as well.
Thank you, Mayor.
First of all, we'll start with the two of you. You've been working on DARE Day now, you told me before we started the show, for 52 years right now.
Just about. It's been 12 years. This is our 12th event.
And how did you get involved with the Elizabeth Municipal Alliance, Rhonda, and through Trinitas? Is this one of your duties you were assigned when you started?
When I first started back 15 years ago at Trinitas, this was one of the duties I was assigned to, and I've been at it ever since.
And now you're the chair of the committee?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And is she a good chairperson here, Joe?
Excellent.
Oh, okay.
We get along well.
And your perspective on DARE, you work with a lot of young people.
Yes.
You also have a church in the community.
Yes, I do.
People talk to you about the trials and tribulations of drugs and alcohol and violence.
Yes, Mayor. I think the most important thing for everybody to understand is that we're just trying to change the way children think about experimenting with drugs and the consequences of getting involved, particularly at an early age. You know, you can make a bad decision in 15 minutes, and it'll take you 15 years to get out of it. So we're trying to make them aware. We're trying to educate them on the dangers of drug abuse.
Mm-hmm. Now, I get some people, Rhonda, I don't know if you get them, but 15 years is a long time. We dealt with kids who were 9 and 10, and now they're in their 20s. Mm-hmm. Has DARE worked? And, you know, sometimes people say, hey, I get kids come back to me all the time and say, you know, Mayor, I met you doing a DARE program. You made me read some books, and they're good people in society.
That's absolutely right. DARE does work. I know there's some critics who have said that DARE isn't that effective. But to me, prevention and education is always an important thing. And if we can get the word out and change the life of one child, then we're working. We're doing our job.
Now, what other activities are planned for this day?
For that day, we just have a fun-filled activity. Reverend Adair spearheaded our chair.
We have the 2x2 petting zoo. That's always a big hit with the kids. We have the National Guards bringing a helicopter in. They always get excited about that. Of course, we have food, free food, and just fun for everyone. Mm-hmm. And we normally get around 500 kids that participate that day.
Yeah. And earlier in that day at 12 noon, we're all going to be at Trinitas at Grossman Hall. We're having a speaker, actually Clinton Miller, who's one of our own. He's going to be speaking to some of the treatment providers and social workers and teachers from the area.
Rhonda, the Elizabeth Municipal Alliance naturally is not just made up of you. You have a whole, who are the Municipal Alliance?
Well,
Talk about some of the other partners.
Yeah, we have like 26 agencies, social service agencies from within the City of Elizabeth that participate in the Elizabeth Municipal Alliance. I represent Trinitas Hospital, the Elizabeth Board of Education, Proceed, Elizabeth Port Presbyterian Center. Those are some real vital players for the Alliance.
Now, Joe mentioned some of the drugs that we try to keep these kids away from. What drugs are most prevalent among children?
Tobacco and alcohol are the number one.
And people wouldn't think tobacco is a drug, and they wouldn't think alcohol is a drug.
Absolutely.
Yet they're the most easiest to get.
Exactly.
And
they're
the most
legal.
prevalent addiction.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And are they considered gateway drugs?
Those are considered the gateway drugs.
What does that mean?
That's some of the things that they say that start children to lead them into more drug use. A lot of the folks start off by drinking and smoking, and it leads them to other things. They add marijuana, and now with the marijuana, ecstasy is being added, which is a whole nother drug use episode. So it's the gateway drug. It gets them started. It kind of whets their appetite for more drugs.
Reverend Adair, you could probably see it in some people that you've ministered to, that if they're on heroin or cocaine or ecstasy, that they may have started at a young age on drugs or tobacco.
Yes, a good percentage of them.
How does that affect the way you talk to people?
Well, I try to get them in treatment right away, Mayor. I think I have a saying that you can't conquer what you don't confront. And there's no two ways about it. If you're addicted to drugs, you need treatment. And there are some good treatment centers in the Union County area. I know Rhonda's program is excellent. And the Hope Center, Ralph Melendez over at the Hope Center, they do a good job with sending people. And a lot of people who don't have insurances, sometimes they can find them in-house treatment centers, even without insurance. And we work closely with those groups.
I know people with a lot of money that go to centers, and it's still within you. You have to
have it.
The individual has to decide, I'm done with this lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Well, addiction is not prejudice. It doesn't care if your address is Park Avenue or Park Bench.
Right.
You know, so it doesn't matter. And that's one thing. It spans every stratosphere, economic stratosphere as well as race.
Rhonda, the relationship between drug abuse and incarceration, you deal with a lot of people with drug abuse.
Right.
Do you see that they're sent there because of judges, or are they headed towards incarceration? Or
Well, right now we see approximately 40% of the folks that come into treatment have had some run-in with the law, be it through DWI or drug court now is really a player in getting people into treatment as well.
And 80% of youth, I go visit youth jails, 80% of the youth admit to having some type of substance problem, substance abuse problem. Either heroin or alcohol. You know, they've done crime, they were high when they committed the crime. And it has a major impact on society. It really does.
And the impact on society is never a positive one.
Never a positive one. We were talking earlier, HIV is on the rise. There's something around 32,000 women who are now HIV positive in the state of New Jersey. Trinitas was fortunate. We just submitted a grant for $2.5 million to SAMHSA to look at affecting the Latino and African American population in HIV. So HIV is one of the sub things that occur following substance abuse. So it's a big impact on society as well.
And Rhonda, from where your perspective, is HIV more prevalent in drug users than any other part of society?
Well, it seems that like it's headed that way. I don't know if that's because who's getting treatment, who's showing up for treatment, but it's higher in that area.
We're working on I was just working on a grant to get 500 special tests that we can go into the community and ask people to voluntarily take the test. Nothing wrong with education in that area.
Right.
Absolutely nothing.
Rhonda, you work with women in addiction, and some of the statistics that you've seen among women in our community.
Well, women suffer the most severe consequences because of their substance abuse. The number one thing is 9 times out of 10, half of the women that come into treatment are mothers. They immediately lose custody of their children due to their drug use. There's poverty. The children don't go to school like they should. So in turn, the children then start having problems in school. So for women, also too, what we're finding is 80% of the women who come into treatment have suffered some sort of trauma, either rape or being physically attacked. And here over at Women's Addictions, we now have a specialized group for women who have addiction issues and trauma issues. So we have to include that in our treatment episode with the women.
And Joe, the treatment facilities you mentioned about available in our community.
Yes.
Naturally, when you send people there, do they come back and thank you, or
No.
No. They don't want to hear that, right?
No. You know, Chris, I'm in the people business, as you know, and you do it because you want to see people change, and I've seen enough success stories to know that if people really want to change, they can change, and we try to prevent them with tools to change. That's what we try to do.
What are the churches in our community doing in conjunction with the Municipal Alliance?
Well, the Elizabeth Municipal Alliance, we have a program that we call the 11A program. It's a faith-based initiative that we give money to have after-school programming, to talk about antisocial behavior, alcohol, tobacco abuse, and we bring educators in, and we have like seminars teaching young kids the dangers of drugs. So it's very successful.